Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Amar Elm, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Candace Edelen, the founder and CEO of Propel Growth, a revenue acceleration consultancy helping B2B companies, particularly in financial services, align their sales and marketing teams to drive growth. With decades of experience in capital markets, technology, and a deep passion for storytelling and go-to-market strategy, Candace is known for transforming complex go-to-market systems into revenue-generating engines. Candace, welcome to Founders Future.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm excited to dive in. I always like to start from the beginning. So take
Okay.
us on a little trip down memory lane to before you started Propel Growth. What were you doing at the time? And then what was really the motivation behind starting the company?
So I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur. This is actually my fifth business. It's an illness that can't be cured, so beware. Anyway, so I the last two companies before Propel Growth were both in the financial technology space. And one of them was relatively successful. We hit the Deloitte and Touche Fast 50 list in 2004 for fastest growing companies and closed an oversubscribed round for our Series A. The investors ultimately bought us out in 2005. My co-founder and I started another business in Boston. That time we did a strategic round instead of a VC round, which should have been better, but the investor went out of business and they ended up having like an asset sale to NASDAQ, and we did not go along with that. And so we lost a lot of money when that happened. But I started Propel Growth after that kind of imploded, and it really focused for the first from about the 10 years, focused on the financial services and specifically financial tech around electronic trading, helping them figure out their go-to-market strategy, doing a lot of work with competitive companies that needed a blue ocean strategy, kind of
Mhm.
helped them think about how to not be so directly competitive.
Yeah.
And that went really well. And then around 2017, 2018, I actually made a pivot away from the electronic trading space. We were shifting into commercial real estate technology at
Yeah.
that point, and I developed a system for getting in the door with those people using LinkedIn that was insanely effective. I got 500 new connections and 125 calls, like meetings, out of those 500 in 6 months. And
Wow.
so it was a really effective system, and we were bringing in business. I've never had designs to be a big agency or something. We were just a small consultancy working with a handful of companies, never more than 4 or 5 companies at a time, because I was getting really, really deep in their strategy and in many cases serving as a fractional CMO for them. And actually even sometimes not so much leading the sales team, but really guiding the sales strategy as well as the go-to-market and marketing strategy. And then along comes COVID. We've pivoted again during COVID because our clients were just like really struggling. And so they would cancel us. And I didn't have the heart to try to hold them to a contract when I knew everybody was struggling. They were losing their own clients.
Yeah.
And so we dropped three of our clients dropped out really quickly, and we had two left, but they were, of course, the smaller ones. And so
Yeah.
I think we lost over 80% of our revenue in 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we're not the only ones that dealt with
Yeah.
that problem. And so fortunately, we're very conservative and had banked a bunch of our profits because we'd been really, really profitable the 3 years prior to that, and had just banked a lot of it. So we had plenty of money to fall back on, and we were fine. And then a client, so I had done a webinar on that methodology I'd used for LinkedIn just as a public service, and like 500 people came to that webinar. That was in 2019. In 2020, a company reached out to me because they sold into the senior living community space. And guess where you're not going to get in-person meetings anymore? Please couldn't even get in. And so they needed a way to be able to reach the executives of these senior living communities without going on site. and they asked me if I would teach them the methodology. And I'm like, I'll do anything at this point because we're not bringing in enough revenue. So I turned my webinar, and 1 hour webinar, I expanded it into a 3 hour course and sold them the course, the training, and then some coaching on the back of that. And they had like 19 people go through it. And about half of them were seeing, not everybody implemented. I'm sure you've seen that too. But the ones who implemented were seeing about a 50% increase in booked meetings as a result of using the methodology. So we knew that we had something that just didn't just work for me. And then another company came to me in October and asked me if I would train their resellers. They had about 300 resellers. My husband is my business partner, and he and I got together and we're like, okay, let's try to turn this into something bigger. If there seems to be a trend here, we got to do something. It was very opportunistic. We did this webinar. Of course, that company wanted us to do it for free. So I modified that 1 hour webinar. We did that, and I think they had like 89 people or 85 people show up, and like 30 bought the course that we were offering on the back of that. And so we launched what we now call Prospecting Mastery at the beginning of 2021, so January 21. And that did extremely well. We were shocked at how well it did. We launched a group training about July of that year because people were wanting more help than what was in the course, and went all in on training. We actually even canceled the last two consulting contracts that we had because this was showing so much promise.
Yeah.
And it did. It doubled more. We were seeing more than 100% growth year over year. It was exceeding what we had been doing in the consulting. It was doing really well until 2024. And then
Mm.
last year, we started to see declines in enrollment. And it wasn't like a steep decline, but 2025 has been a persisting in that. And so now we're actually pivoting again and adding one of the things that we're learning in the group work that we do is how much founders are struggling with spinning so many plates. And always the prospecting plate is the plate that gets dropped first when they get busy or somebody quits or whatever. And outbound is declining in effectiveness anyway because there's so much spam out there. And now with AI automating it, it's just getting worse. And we're having to compete with the noise. And so my methodology that worked so brilliantly in 2018 doesn't have the same, it still gets dramatically better results than cold email, but it needs some elements in it that the founders are just not able to carve the time out to do and to learn in terms of getting content out there. So we're kind of, in a way, we're shifting a little bit back to what we were doing before, but not quite as deep. We're doing content for clients, mostly LinkedIn content, and helping them to build an audience on LinkedIn that they can then engage with in the comments and build rapport with them, send a connection request, and get meetings that way. So it's kind of an inbound to outbound strategy, working with warmer leads. And
Very interesting.
that's been
So
gangbusters. So now we're seeing the same kind of growth with that we saw with the other. We just started selling
yeah,
it 4 weeks ago, and we've closed. I'm not going to take very many, and I only have two more slots left. Like it's been selling really well. So
powerful. So it sounds like you were doing a lot of the group training, you had the prospecting mastery course, and then
Mhm.
now you're pivoting to more done for you services and
Done with you.
done with you. Okay.
Yeah, and there's a really, really important distinction on that, Amar, because I see so many people with this done for you, or they're using automation and AI to do things, and it creates a real problem. Somebody just described it really well on LinkedIn yesterday, where they were actually the buyer and an AI reached out to them. They didn't know it was an AI SDR, reached out to them, knew a ton about their business and could really tie the story to their business. They had a couple of interactions with that AI thinking it was human, and it booked a meeting with an SDR. The SDR hadn't done that research. And so suddenly there's this complete lack of alignment between
Yeah.
what the AI knew and what the SDR knew, and it broke the trust that had been built.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
that's
then the customer, like, I want nothing to do with this company.
100%. If you're gonna use AI, you may as well know what the AI knows. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's it's not an easy thing. And I don't
Yeah.
want to put AI between you and me because I don't know what it's saying. It's really difficult to monitor that. It's going to say something different to every single individual.
Yeah.
And I will break trust. And I think that the same is true if you hire a virtual assistant to do it. You break the trust. And so what we do is very interactive with the client. I want to make sure it's the client's voice and not mine and not ChatGPT's voice. And it's got to be their ideas, their solutions, their approaches, their communication, so that you don't break that trust. Because right now, I think we're at this really pivotal moment where my husband and I will look at a video and we're like, is that AI or not? Is that real? And I
Yeah.
think we're losing more and more trust.
Yeah, I completely agree. Google came out with a study. It says we're in a trust recession right now. Buyers talking to strangers is at an all-time low in terms of the trust they have with doing business with them. I'm curious your perspective on one thing though, because you mentioned you only have two more slots. So it sounds like there's limitations with how many clients you can take on at a particular time.
Yep. And that's by design on my side.
Yeah, I'm curious your perspective on that because I had a gentleman on earlier this week and he was talking about the scalability of his fulfillment model and he
Mhm.
wanted to scale further, but there was inherent time bottlenecks. So he needed to figure out a way to restructure his offer to be able to scale further. I'm curious your perspective when you think about your offer specifically in the fulfillment model. Do you have plans of restructuring it to be able to bring on more people at a particular time? And if so, what would that look like?
See, we're really focused on the idea of scaling the business when we were building the accelerator out. And it's a membership model. But what we've learned is that the more you scale up anything that is a human to human interaction, the more you start to depreciate the value that the individuals are getting from it. And I've kind of changed my mindset on this for us personally. I'm not saying that people who want to scale are wrong. I'm only looking at this from my perspective. And I can bring, because I have run 5 businesses, because I have run some fairly successful businesses, and I was responsible for all of the commercial operations for those because I have helped 13 of our clients get acquired through improving their visibility and their go-to-market strategy and helping to articulate what their messaging is so that they become acquisition targets. That type of experience, I cannot necessarily, maybe with AI eventually, but that's hard to bottle up, have someone else be able to deliver that. And so I had to make the decision whether I want to provide a lot of value to a handful of companies where I can do it as cost effectively as possible for them and really deliver tremendous value that only my background, you're not going to be able to replicate me. You can't clone
Yeah.
me. Not to say that there's not other people who are incredibly talented. That's not my point. It's just that you
Yeah.
can't clone me. I've made the decision that trying to scale that into something really big ends up diluting the value proposition.
Mm.
And so I have decided not to do that. That's not to
Yeah.
say that others don't. I think that you can make a decision whether you want to. As a founder, I've seen a lot of founders sell their companies, and I've seen a lot of sales that were successful exits, and I've seen a lot of sales that weren't very successful. And we all assume we're going to have this awesome exit, but that's not a guarantee. And so I'm more interested in having a business that's going to be sustainable, that I can have a really good lifestyle with it, where I'm not working full time. Even now, I only work 3 days a week. And I don't want to work more. I want to work less, is why we're actually starting to pull back on the membership model, because it takes a lot to launch it every half year. And I don't really want to do that anymore. It was so much work.
Yeah.
So I'm looking more for, and I'm older, and that also contributes to this.
Yeah.
I've had 2 sales that didn't go well. I did scale 2 companies. It didn't like make me independently wealthy. And I have made that decision to back off from that and just look for a lifestyle business that serves me well, that makes good money, that allows us to live the lifestyle that we want to live.
Yeah, thank you so much for breaking that down because I think it's important to get people's perspectives and thought processes because one person's answer isn't right for every single person.
Yeah. And
Curious?
the tech bros don't have it all.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm super curious for you. It sounds like right now it's more about lifestyle and living the lifestyle that you choose to live personally, and the company is able to provide that. But I'm curious if you were to find a model that worked where you could scale, but also work the same number of hours you're working right now, is that something that you would explore or not really?
Yes, and I know that there are some things in the model, and we're so fresh with this new model that you can't just go, oh, this is how I'm going to scale it, because you've
Yeah.
got to go deliver for a while until you can
Yeah.
figure that out. But I do think that there are elements of what I'm doing right now that can be automated. So I think AI agents will play a role, not in
Cool.
the customer touching, customer facing things, but some of the back end stuff that I'm already seeing a repetitive
Yep.
nature. And a
Yeah.
virtual assistant can also start to help. And potentially I can train someone to do some of what I'm doing,
Yeah.
but it's something I think a lot of people try to automate before they figure it out, and that's the
Yeah.
wrong approach.
I completely agree. When it comes to the lead gen, let's briefly touch upon that right now. When it comes to you acquiring more customers, what does that process currently look like?
So we have built a fairly sophisticated organic funnel system that has taken some time to get, and I wouldn't say we've gotten it all nailed, but it's working pretty well. So there's a few different elements of it. LinkedIn plays a huge role. And even with declining reach, LinkedIn is still our number one lead generation source by probably 80% of our
Wow.
business comes, maybe not 80%, maybe 65 to 70. The other system for generating leads is speaking. And I know your audience, there's a lot of consultants and people in it. And I really was hesitant to do a lot of public speaking. My partner kept trying to push me for it. And I have finally figured out how to get booked for conferences and speak at conferences and attract an audience, because you're not done just when you get booked. You've also got to make sure that people know about your session and show up. So I'm finally getting a little bit better at that. And that generates quite a bit of new leads for me too. And I have systems in place where I work into my talk. Oh, and by the way, I've got this workbook that'll show you how to do that. If you want that, here's this QR code, and they register. And so usually I'm able to capture about 70% of the people in the room onto my list.
Got it.
Between 50 and 70, it depends on how tightly I've tied the offer to what I'm talking about. And we've got a couple of workbooks that have worked really well for that. And then there's an automation on the back of that walks them through how to use that workbook. I update it with each talk. So they're getting an automation that's specific to the talk with about 5 emails that help them take advantage of what they learned in the talk. And then they're also receiving my weekly newsletter. So we're constantly nurturing and teaching, and that newsletter keeps me in front of them over and over again. And then also trying to engage with them on LinkedIn. I might send them a DM. I'm tracking if they're hitting our sales pages. I get a notification of it, and then I'll reach out to them both via email and LinkedIn so that I can understand who's the warm leads and interact with those people more. We take a very human to human approach to what we do, and that's really, really intentional. So when we do have automation, it's acknowledged. This is automation. I know we don't believe you can automate a relationship. However, we do want to automate getting this information to you. And we're really try to be very transparent about it. Even the one where it says if they hit our sales page for our accelerator 3 times, they get an email from me saying, hey, my marketing automation system detected that you visited the sales page and might be interested in talking about the accelerator. Would you like to book a meeting with me? And that books a lot of meetings.
Yeah. I'm curious what your sales process looks like. So once someone books a meeting, what are the different steps in the process that they go through for them to become a client?
It's pretty simple. We have a conversation. I have some specific things that I'm asking them, just trying to uncover what their pain point is. I show them a roadmap of how we help. And then I'm just asking them, where do you think we should go from here? And it's very low pressure. And recently I started adopting, are you familiar with the company called Fluent.ai? Fluint.
No.
Really cool product. No, I'm not paid to to talk about them. I haven't even met the founder. I'm connected with him on LinkedIn. Nate Nasrallah is the founder, and he has this template called the one page business case. And
Mm,
I've started using that and I record all of the calls with Fathom and I'll take the transcript of that, go to ChatGPT because I've got a very well-trained ChatGPT and build a business case off of the call,
mm,
interacting with ChatGPT. It's not just a prompt and it's done kind of thing.
yeah,
And then I'll put that into a Google Doc and share it with the client and give them edit rights to it. And I'm very clear with them. It's like, this is a draft. It's your document. I want you to edit it. I want you to change it. And it's got like KPIs and what it will cost, but it's also got like all of the business reasons. Like, what did you say you needed? What were your challenges? And that is really helping with our close ratios.
got it.
Right now, with this new offer, I'm at like an 80% close ratio. So
Wow, you got
um,
to raise your prices soon. If you're closing
I've
that
been
much,
raising it each
yeah,
call. I'm raising
yeah.
it.
Yeah. I'm like, yo, if you're my thought process, if you're closing at 60% more, especially if it's colder traffic, so people that don't really know you too well, then you should probably raise your prices because you'll probably
Yeah. And so
um,
far, most of these have been warm. We'll see where we get to with the less warm traffic.
yeah,
But I don't need very many sales.
yeah,
It's that's been a lower pressure thing because I needed a lot more sales in the accelerator and the training program in order to hit our revenue targets. And now I don't need to do as much. So going back to I want to work less.
yeah.
Um,
I like that.
Have you
But
ever read Elaine Pofelt's book, The $1 Million One Person Business?
no,
It's a phenomenal, she tells a lot of stories about a bunch of different businesses in different industries that are doing $1 million in revenue, and it's just one person.
yeah. I think now with AI, that's going to be just ridiculously more easier. But I
Mhm.
like what you said, where automating the internal systems and the back end systems as opposed to the customer facing stuff. Email, stuff like that, lead magnets, that can be automated. That's not a problem. But sales, I think that's we're far from that being it being at a level that it can operate at the same efficiency as a human can, in my opinion. And
There,
I'm sorry to cut you off. I do think we're gonna crave more human interaction as we move more into this AI world that we live in. But go
I
for it.
completely agree with everything you said. And have you looked at Adam Robinson's guy that for our, what is his company name? RB2. It's like one of those companies that can track the leads that are hitting your website. Hang on a second, I'm going to look him
I
up.
know about companies like that. I don't know his specifically.
Hang on. It's now I'm just in his Delphi things. RB2B. And
Okay.
in the top right corner of their website, it gives you the option to talk to his AI.
Mm,
And he had posted about it, and I was really, really skeptical. He's using Delphi, which is an interesting tool in itself. And I played around with it because I was curious, and it did quite a good job. In that case, he's transparent. This is AI. You're not talking to him. And so I think that there are going to be elements where we can have an AI interface when people know it's not human and be able to do that. But I just think that pretending is a really, really bad idea.
agreed. Agreed. When you think of your vision, and we can briefly touch upon this, let's say over the next 12 to 24 months, what are you aiming towards? Are there any specific revenue targets or performance targets in terms of number of clients? What does that look like? Paint me that picture.
So right now we've still got our training business, and that's about 50% of our revenue, and 50% is coming from this personalized service. We're going to gradually probably decline on the revenue and push up on the services because it just seems to be a little bit lower lift for me.
Yep.
And so I would like to get to the point where I've got 8 clients consistently and we have a wait list. And that we are doing a great job in retention because we're just knocking it out of the park for the clients.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to serve thousands of people. If we get to the point where I find that there are ways to automate some of this, that it needs less of my time, and I can have somebody, I would love to provide a job for someone. I'm actually a big believer in job creation. So
Yeah.
if I can do something where I can create a job for someone without trying to clone myself, I would look to that, but I wouldn't look to become a big company, maybe 1 or 2 people. If that allows me to continue to not work very many hours, to have the freedom and flexibility that I want,
Yeah.
and increase a little bit how many clients we can serve. But that's still like way in the future right now because this is not a proven model yet.
Yeah. I love that. What is the best way for people to get in contact with you to work with you?
Contact me on LinkedIn. So my name is spelled unusually, Candace Edelen. So it's really easy to find me on LinkedIn. And or you can also go to my website, propelgrowth.com, and find me. And if you reach out to contact me, I will respond. Just please don't say bot.
Yeah, fair enough. Candice, thank you so much for your time today. I truly
Thank you very much for having me. This was a really fun conversation.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to reach out to Candace on LinkedIn. There's also propelgrowth.com. We'll have her name here, so it's very easy to find on LinkedIn. And if you are a business owner, specifically coach, consultant, or an agency, and you are really looking to take your business to the next level and really enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to discover how we can support your growth journey. Until then, keep on climbing.